I'm Von Biggs, and let's queer up health. Aging while queer leaves many older adults unprotected in long-term care. A new study published in February in the Journal of the American Medical Directors Association is sounding the alarm about what happens to LGBTQ plus people as they age and need assisted living or nursing care. The researchers reviewed all existing United States laws that explicitly protected queer residents in long-term care settings. What they found was deeply uneven. According to the study, protections vary widely across states, with inconsistencies in definitions, staff training, oversight, and enforcement. The authors write that these differences create, quote, significant gaps, end quote, in safety and dignity for LGBTQ older adults. In plain language, where you live can determine how protected you are. The study explains that many facilities lack required training on sexual orientation and gender identity, leaving residents vulnerable to discrimination, mistreatment, or pressure to hide who they are in order to receive care. The authors emphasize that even where protections exist on paper, enforcement is often weak, making policies difficult to rely on when problems arise. That matters here in Florida. Florida is home to one of the largest populations of queer adults over the age of 50. As more people age into long-term care, inconsistent protections mean too many are forced to choose between care and dignity. You know, we talk about the aging community all the time at this table. We are in a state where the majority of the people are over the age of 50, and it is becoming more and more difficult for people even just to live in their own homes. And you think about people in our aging communities that might be forced into nursing care or facility or even independent living, or, and the people, if they're not trained to take care of individuals, and we already see that happens already in our state. Yeah. Imagine what's going to happen when they get into those health systems. So just Absolutely. A way, I mean, they're raising the alarm already, which,
and it's frightening because a lot of people who are older now and who are now 50 to 65, who are going to be 65 to 80 in a few years, they don't have families. Having kids wasn't really a thing for LGBTQ for that particular age demographic. Yeah. So as the only person at this table under the age of 50 and well under the age of 50, I know it's a problem and I am preparing for it.
Well, I don't want to step on your toes, but I do want to say this. I was reading a study or listening to it. I don't read too much. I listen to a lot of studies, actually. And after a certain point, I believe people over the age of 60, men in particular, don't have even a close friend. Mm-hmm. Meaning that if you're going to be aging, and you're going to be aging while gay or queer or non-conforming in whatever way it is that it speaks to your soul, to be put in an assisted living care facility with nobody advocating for you, having no friends, no family. It's just the way our culture is set up, is that we lose friends as we age. And then a lot of men, as they get older, stop getting out there, putting themselves out there, making new friends. So you don't even have somebody on the outside of that assisted care facility looking out for you. And that's got to be very scary. And I think it's so sad that depending on where you live determines what kind of access to affirmative care. And I don't even mean that gender-wise. I just mean affirmative, that right. You're okay. Nobody's trying to change you. Mm-hmm. We love you just the way that you are. Let's, have a coffee and chat about the good old days with a nurse or something. Right. That might not happen for a lot of people if you're living in places like Central Florida, North Florida, even places in South Florida where there's, a heavy religious component happening. If your care facility is run by, a faith service that is not affirming to you, you're shit out of luck, and I feel horrible about that. So,
just to say something about what you said, actually, that generation you're talking about a lot, and I know this because my husband had a son when I first met him, and so I was very much aware of that generation. Many of them were married and then came out later.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And so there are people of that generation who do have kids, and from what I could see, have good relationships with those kids, but it's not something we like to talk about, this whole aging thing, and it is part of aging, and something every LGBTQ person should prepare for, even if they're still young and healthy. Do the research, have a plan in place, including friends and family members, people who can advocate on your behalf if you are in one of those kinds of settings.
Absolutely. Well, there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.